Hello guys, so I'm going to talk about elements of web design. All right, this is the area where we're going to talk about different aspects within web design, different things to pay attention to when you are designing for the web. All right, first thing is always going to be color. All right, color has the ability to guide, direct, and persuade a user. All right, when we're dealing with color, we have different psychologies within color. All right, different colors mean certain things. And when you think about color, there always has to be a reason for it. Whether it's like a branding logo that's already been established, you may want to incorporate that or use that to your advantage. But in some cases, if there's no identity or anything like that, you want to develop colors that are going to work with particular audiences. Such as blue is very calming and it's very cool. Or red, which can mean basically two things, either danger or love. So with color, you have to think in terms of what is it that you're trying to communicate within the design. Right, so we have these. Right, you can see that they're vast colors that are being used, but you can use most colors. There used to be a time where you had to only use 256 colors in a web design because those were established as safe colors, which are used on pretty much every monitor. Nowadays, we have monitors that will project millions of colors, and that's not really a factor anymore. You can give your design texture, which is giving a tactile experience and helps connect the user to the content of the page. Right, when we're dealing with texture, we deal with developing whether it's like a rusty texture or wood pattern or brick pattern or even just a solid color can give a site a certain texture and relate to what you're trying to sell or what the message is. In this case, what we have is this Vegas Uncorked event, which uses an old style kind of like stucco background. And those are totally fine to use. There's nothing wrong with them. But it's very subtle. It's not overpowering or it's not obscuring the eyes or giving less contrast to the words on top. It is just a very subtle texture, and that's important to kind of keep involved with your design, is to keep the design or the texture to a minimum when you're dealing with contrast. Here's another one. Again, the texture's there, but it's very subtle. It's not interrupting or disturbing any contrast within the design. You can use imagery and iconography, which basically is using images, and iconography can mean replacing wording descriptions with a single image, making a layout easier for a user to quickly get information from. Designing logos, or I say icons. All right, icons basically can help to picture or allow somebody to picture what's there. If you have the icon or the logo for Facebook on there on your website, people know that it's Facebook. They don't have to have the word Facebook after it because they notice that that is there. All right, so here is again an example, and I'm primarily looking down towards the bottom where you have different icons to represent different things. Right, that's helps the user to see instantly where they want to go. Or here, all right, you got icons in the middle on the banner where we have different icons that represent different things, and those are okay to have, as well as imagery to entice to bring the viewer in. But you don't want to use too much imagery or icons in the design. You want to keep those elements subtle. You don't want to overpower the design by using all kinds of graphics or photos within a design. Again, another example. Right? We have imagery here, and we have different elements that are leading through the design. Scale. Scale is a contrast of size or scale is one way designers can add a sense of drama to a design. All right, when we deal with scale, we look at certain things at certain sizes, and that's what we're used to. When we see something that's out of place, our attention is drawn to it, such as this. Even though a watch is relatively small, it is super big on this website for Apple. All right, so it puts it out of proportion. It grabs our attention to the design because that's what's going to draw our attention. And depth and dimension. Applying depth and dimension to a page gives it an element of realism, and like texture, gives a user a more tactile experience. All right, when we're dealing with depth, you can, in 2D, you can emulate a three-dimensional surface in many different ways. And when you can do that within design, you can entice or invite somebody into this 3D experience within their design, within the whole website. All right, you look at this, and it looks like these cupcakes are on top of a counter. It looks like the awning for the shop is out in front of everything. All right, it gives that idea of a three-dimensional type surface, and those are totally acceptable when you can do it. All right. Another example of one. So it's like it basically gives you that three-dimensional experience of that design. It's like bringing you out. Animation can be a focal point of a site, but too much can be distracting. You can use animation, but you do not want to make it a circus. All right, animation and design should be used very subtly and very simple, not overly complex animations like we used to have years ago when we had Flash, because it seemed like designers would learn Flash and they would create all these different experiences within Flash, and it was just, and it turned out to be an awful experience a lot of times. So now we have the options where we can create subtle animations that are just very, very subtle. They're not overpowering. All right, this is a design that was made years ago from Panasonic, and I'll describe it because the site's no longer around. But it had that three-dimensional, those lines there kind of rotated in the background. It was very slow. It rotated around. It didn't do like a whole lot. All right, it just kind of like added a subtle animation to add a little bit of depth to the design. Variability. The ability for a designer to vary elements of a design based on things like sections of a site or specific events, which is random. All right, we can we can give some kind of variety to a design. Google does this still. Every once in a while, if there's a certain holiday that comes up, it would give these different renditions of it daily almost, where it would show the word Google, but it would just basically change into some kind of artistic element. And when you click on it, you get brought to that particular, what that icon kind of means or what that's trying to talk about. All right, so this is what I mean as far as variety. All right. Many times in sites, you want to update the information. If you don't update the information every once in a while, the site becomes boring for your user. They won't want to come back. So you want to always kind of update your site. It's what we've coined in business is basically it's a living document where it is basically, it should be alive. It should be updated often. To give new information within the site. All right, so that's it for today. So I will talk next time.